The theme for today is legacy. I would like to talk about your legacy. So far, of course, but you're still alive. Eh? That's very important to say. There are a lot of people here, and everywhere you go, there are a lot of people listening to your stories. How does that feel? People.
You know, it's
like
a lot of pressure, because I have to be kind of very careful about what I say, about what I write, because people take it seriously. So,
yeah.
You know, when I wrote *Sapiens* originally, part of what made it easier for me to write, I had no idea it will be very successful. I felt I was writing for myself, for my students, so I could be very playful. And now it's much more difficult, because you have to kind of really pay attention to what you say. You know, I think today in the world we see this emerging trend of authentic leaders or authentic politicians that just say the first thing that comes up in their mind. And this is extremely dangerous. I think that, you know, whether you're a politician or a public intellectual or whatever, if you're a person that many people listen to, then authenticity is very bad. We don't need authentic leaders.
No?
We need responsible leaders. I mean, you know, politics is not a therapy session. You want to be authentic and say the first thing that comes in your mind, go to a psychiatrist, go to a psychologist. I mean, that's the place to do it. I mean, as a leader, like, your words are like seeds that are planted in the minds of millions of people. So you have to be very, very careful. You need a wall. I mean, people love walls today. So you need a wall between your mind and your mouth. And be very careful about what you allow to go out.
Are you surprised people take you serious?
Sometimes, but you know, I got used to it. So. You know.
And how does that feel? That so many people take you serious?
So, as I said, it feels stressful. It places, again, a lot of responsibility. I try as much as possible to kind of keep to what I know. And, you know, there is always the temptation to go further. People ask me questions I don't know the answer to. They expect me to come up with solutions that I don't know. So a very important part of the job is to know my own limitations. And to kind of, I don't know, yesterday I had this interview on Dutch TV.
Yeah, with Louis van Gaal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows everything, of course. Yeah, he knows everything, yeah. And that's difficult then.
There was this moment when they had this kind of singing competition, and they had these 8 young singers, and then Louis and me, we had to say who do we think is the best.
Yeah.
And I have no talent for music whatsoever. I can't sing. I can't judge other people's singing. So, you know, just say, I don't know. I can't do that.
And that's important to say.
That's very important. Because, again, the pressure to do it is very big. People expect, and, you know, that's, again, part of the problem is that when people follow somebody, there is a tendency to shift responsibility from me to them. And part of the job is to resist it and to return the responsibility to people that I don't know the answer to these questions, or I don't know what to do. I can raise the question, but if I have a kind of pet theory about how to solve it, and I'm not sure that it's really good, it's very important to kind of resist the temptation to throw it on people as the answer.
You're not a guru.
I try not to be. I mean, again...
But some people say you are,
a lot of people say that I am. I try not to be. I think it's very dangerous, both to them and to me. It's dangerous to them because then they stop thinking, they stop making an effort, they expect the guru to tell them what to do. It's even more dangerous in the way to the person who is put in that place because most people are not qualified for it.
You are?
I'm not. I mean, it goes to your head. You start believing that you have all the answer, and that's very, very dangerous. It kind of completely, it inflates your ego and it twists your mind, and it's really dangerous.
But the other host told you, I feel like I'm on the stage with a rock star. Do you feel like a rock star every now and then?
Sometimes, but that's I mean, in the terms of the reception that people give you. But still, a rock star is better than a guru.
Yeah. Most of the time, eh?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. But you meet a lot of important people. A lot of important people say, Harari is saying special things, maybe he's even right with all the things he's saying about the future. That must do something to you if all those people say that, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Barack Obama, people like that. What does it do with your self-esteem?
Again, it just kind of increases the weight of the responsibility.
Yeah.
But also when
you're a human being.
Yeah, and when you meet all these leaders, business leaders, political leaders, one of the things you realize is that nobody really knows what is happening. Nobody has all the answers. And people have this fantasy about these extremely powerful people or a group of powerful people. They control the whole world.
Yeah, the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and one of the things you realize when you meet these people, but also you realize from history, I mean, nobody has that kind of power. I mean, the real world is so messy, is so complicated. You look at a real conspiracy, you know, I don't know, like the American invasion of Iraq, or the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You have such powerful countries with your big military and intelligence services and everything, and they come in with a big plan, and all goes wrong. There are so many things they didn't expect. The results often are the exact opposite of what they planned. The idea that anybody or any small group of people have so much power and understanding that they can plan, like, I don't know, 10 moves ahead on the global chess player, like, I don't know, they can release a virus and create a pandemic for some kind of economic gain or political. Nobody is able to do that. And the historical example that you should come back to are things like the Iraq War. You have the most powerful country in the world that getting it completely wrong, and the end result is the opposite of what they planned, what they expected. But
what is it with these people who think about these conspiracies? What's the reason you think they feel like this? Are they
partly, I think it's kind of, in a very strange way, it's a feel-good narrative. For two reasons. First of all, you feel you understand the world. One of the most difficult things about being a human being is that we don't understand the world.
No.
And when you believe, I mean, the kind of, the most typical type of conspiracy theories, they are a kind of one-size-fits-all. There is one conspiracy in the world, it explains everything.
The Great Reset.
And yeah, whatever it is. And the comforting things about it is, first of all, that I understand everything. I understand everything about the world. And this is a nice feeling, especially if I'm the only one who understands, or a small, I mean, being in the know. Like all these people, they are fooled by the conspiracy. I'm not. I know the truth. So this is a very comforting feeling. Another thing, which is quite strange, but I think that psychologically there is something about it, then it means that potentially it's easy to solve the problem.
How?
Because there is just this small group of people who are causing all the problem. So if we can somehow defeat them, if we can somehow get rid of them, that's it, problem solved. I mean, if you think about the economic difficulties of the world, or you think about climate change, if you imagine that the source of the problem is just one small group of people, again, there is something very comforting about that, because it means that the problem is actually not so complicated. We just need to do something about these people.
So they like to simplify everything.
Yeah.
So then they can understand the world. That's what they do. In a way.
In a way, yes. Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, there are also very valid fears which are expressed in many of these conspiracies. I mean, many of these conspiracies are about I have a lack of control and feeling that I'm being monitored, that I'm being surveyed. And this is an extremely valid fear, because we are reaching a point for the first time in human history when it is becoming technically possible to follow everybody all the time, and to actually understand people better than they understand themselves. This was never possible before in history, not even in the most totalitarian regimes. The Soviet Union, the KGB couldn't follow everybody all the time.
But now they take your smartphone.
Now it's yes. Again, very often the conspiracy theories, they focus on the wrong place or on the wrong technology. Like you have all these people are afraid of being implanted with chips. And again, this is comforting because then they can tell themselves, nobody has yet implanted me with a chip in the brain and I will resist if they come, so I'm safe. They don't understand it's not a chip in the brain, it's the smartphone. That's the really dangerous technology, and you already have it.
Yeah, you take it everywhere.
You take it, and this is where you get your theories from.
Yeah.
So, but the kernel of the fear, they are absolutely correct. They should be terrified of this situation of being followed all the time and being monitored.
But with this development, is there a possibility in future there could be a small group of people who will be in control of the world then, with this technology you're describing?
If it happens, everybody will know it. One of the other things that characterizes these theories is that they imagine this small group of people as doing two things simultaneously. They control everything, and they keep it secret at the same time. This is not possible. There are situations in history when a small group of people have enormous power and control, maybe not the whole world, but a whole country. But then everybody knows about it. If I tell you that the CCP, or the heads of the Chinese Communist Party, they control the whole of China, did you know? Yes, you knew that. They have enormous power, they follow everybody, but everybody knows it. It's not a secret. Because usually when you have enormous power, you can't hide it. And very often it's actually a precondition for power is that you have this publicity. Again, you look at the Soviet Union, so it's not a secret that Stalin is the key figure. Part of Stalin's power is this personality cult around him. That in every school, in every office, in every house, there is this image, this icon of Stalin. It's part of his power. So at least, I mean, when you look at history, it's impossible at the same time to have enormous power and to hide it. You have to choose. You can hide you can be anonymous, but then you don't have much power usually.
But is this the right audience to tell your story to? I mean, you're talking about the useless people, a lot of them in the future, but they don't read your books. They don't listen to your stories, but you should warn them.
I try to. So I talk in all kinds of forums. I publish in all kinds, like I'm now working, I publish a graphic novel, I'm now publishing a children's book. Part of the reason is to speak in different kind of, different levels to reach as many people as possible, because we need as many people as possible to be part of the conversation. You have these people who say they have this kind of technocratic vision, that they say that people who don't have enough education or whatever, they shouldn't be part of the process because they don't understand enough. And that's completely wrong. Because the key to taking part in the political discussion is not having a certain level of education. It's having a certain type of life experience. The problem is that if only, people with college education get to be part of the conversation, they can't really represent the experiences and the interests of everybody.
But that's happening right now, don't you think so? With all the things you're doing all over the world? Most of the people are well educated, maybe a little bit rich. So therefore it's quite hard to reach the other people.
Yeah, it's hard, but this is the job. This is the job of public intellectuals.
How many times did you tell this story already?
Which one?
The one you just did here. The one about the development and about the education for the kids and things like that. How many times?
Quite a few times.
Yes.
Quite a few times.
So then it becomes a story, or it's still the truth?
Stories are not necessarily untrue. I mean, story is a kind of, it's the form, it's the structure. One of the problems of humanity is that fictional stories usually have an inherent advantage over true stories. I mean, for two reasons. First of all, the truth is often very complicated. Fiction can be made as simple as you want it. Again, like with conspiracy theories. Like climate change is extremely, the pandemic. Just to understand what a virus is, it's really complicated because biology is complicated. Like a virus is not even, an animal or a bacteria. It's not a cell. It's just a package of code. It's genetic code that has the amazing ability to infiltrate your cells, hijack the mechanisms of the cell and produce more copies of this code. It's just code. And this is such a difficult thing to grasp. It's much easier to believe a story that you have a group of billionaires or whatever who created this in order to take over the world. So one advantage of fiction is that it can be made very simple. Secondly, the truth is often painful, is often unwelcome. I don't know, we have now elections in Israel. A politician in Israel that will go around talking about, I don't know, the suffering that the Israeli occupation inflicts on Palestinians will not get many votes that way.
But are you telling the truth? Are you telling the truth?
I try to as much as possible.
You're sure? You're sure about it?
Not always. Again, I try to, as I said in the beginning, I try to be very aware and responsible about what I'm saying. To give you a guarantee that everything I'm saying is 100% true. It's all based on no, and that's part of the responsibility also, I think, of scientists, but also of democratic institutions, is to always take into account the options that we are wrong. And this is a key characteristic, both of scientific institutions.
And be honest about it when you're wrong. That's very important.
Be honest about it, but also leave room for your own errors. Assume in advance that you're also making errors. So you have these self-correcting mechanisms built in. In science, we have self-correcting mechanisms built into every scientific institution. This is what defines them as a scientific institution and not a religion. Religions often don't have any room for self-correcting mechanisms. They assume that they have the whole truth, the eternal truth. So it's not like you get a new edition of the Bible every few years. Oh, we discovered some error. We need to change that.
Yeah, but for some people, your books are a new Bible.
That's very dangerous.
Is that dangerous?
That's very dangerous. I mean, if I could, I would have a new edition of the book every few years, but it's not workable. And at some point, you just need to leave it aside.
But it has become business as well. You have your own corporation, Sapienship. You have people working for you.
Yeah.
How authentic can it be then still, if it's getting that big?
As I said, I don't want to be authentic. I want to be responsible. It's a very different thing.
Yeah.
And again, you need to play the game. That you want to play football, you need a team. You want to play in the world today, you need a corporation or some other kind of organization. To make a change in the world, I think institutions are key. 50 people who work together in an institution, an organization, a corporation, however you call it, can make a much bigger change than 500 individual activists, each trying to do their own thing.
We have to work together, like you always say.
We have to work together.
That's one of the solutions for the problems in the next coming years, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's your responsibility in that then? You say it's my responsibility. How do you describe your responsibility then?
Not just me, again, but my our organization, we define our purpose as focusing the global conversation on the most important problems. That's, I mean, you can't solve all the problems in the world by yourself. You usually focus on one thing and focus on that. So that's our focus. And we think that part of the issue in the world is that people often get their priorities wrong. They focus on problems which are real problems, but much lower down, I don't know, I think terrorism. Terrorists kill a small number of people, but cause millions to be terrified. This is the power of terror.
Yeah, but you describe them as weak people who use an ultimate weapon that doesn't really work, but only the fear.
Yeah, but it's a very powerful weapon because, you do see that governments fall. Yeah. And that elections are decided by these terror activities, they don't really pose a danger to human society like climate change or like the rise of disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence. But you still see in much of the world the political discussion focuses on terrorism, whereas they have no views on AI, on artificial intelligence. So part of the way we define our job is to focus the conversation on the most important challenges.
That's what you do. You're a sort of messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, they always say. How dangerous is it to bring this message then?
Dangerous. It's not. I mean, there are people who do much more dangerous things than I
Yeah.
do. Like I recently met the Nobel Prize winner from the Philippines, a journalist, Maria. I forgot her. And she's doing really a dangerous job.
Yeah.
She's there on the front lines, putting her life at risk every day. So she's in danger. Or I think about the people in Ukraine who are now on the front line of the fight for freedom, of the fight really also for world peace. And they are really in a dangerous position.
But you don't feel it like that at all. Don't you ever are being threatened or things like
I mean,
that?
there are some small threats, but they are not of the same magnitude. So
It doesn't stop you. It won't stop you in the future as well.
in the future, let's see. I mean, but
Yeah.
at least at present, I'm here.
Yeah. Who are you? Who are you?
Who am I? That's a very difficult question. I'm still exploring that. I think part of the issue with identity is that too many people, when they ask this question, who am I, they settle for some very narrow answer, like I belong to this tribe or to this group of people, and that's the most important thing or the only thing I need to know about myself. And this is always wrong. We are such complicated entities. To know who I am, I need a very, very broad view. You know, there are the immediate components that came from my culture, from my country, from the last few years. And then there are the things I got from millions of billions of years of evolution. Like the deepest part of myself, the deepest emotions, fear, love, they didn't come from Jewish religion or Israeli culture or from human history. They come from billions of years of evolution.
But in one of your books you say you have to know yourself before algorithms will do.
Yes.
That's what you say. But is that possible then, you think?
Yes, to some extent, yes, because you know the technology is still not there. I mean, it is possible today to collect a lot more information about you than in any previous time, but to actually observe what's happening inside you, this is something that the technology is still incapable of doing.
But how can we win this race then, before the algorithms do? How do we do that? You're doing a meditation or something like that?
There is no single solution that fits everybody. Like, I put a lot of effort into meditation.
I like to karaoke. Does that work? I'd like to karaoke. Is that working as well?
Test it for yourself. It's an empirical question. I mean, different methods work for different people. For some people, it's therapy. For some people, it's hiking in the woods, or sports, or maybe karaoke, or singing. Yes. I mean, test what really works, what helps you get to know yourself better. And when you discover this, then the important thing is give it time. Invest in it. It's one of the best investments you can do.
Yeah, but we don't have time anymore. That's the problem, I think, for most people.
That's a dangerous way of thinking. We still have time. No matter who you are, it's not like the entire world is just on you. On your shoulders, and if you don't have kind of time to just explore, to just observe, then we are living in a very toxic information world, and we need time to detoxify our mind. The same way that we need time. I mean, we need time to rest our body, to clean it, to feed it. We can't function otherwise. It's the same thing with our mind. We also need to give our mind times for rest. We need to give it a good diet. We need to give it an ability to detoxify itself from all the toxic information out there. And if we don't do that, then we are not being more efficient. We are being self-destructive.
Yeah. Your husband is very important to this as well?
Yeah.
For 20 years you're very, very happy. You don't have kids, do you?
We don't have kids,
no. Do you feel bad about that?
No.
No?
It never crossed my mind, really. I mean, it's not like I made this big decision. If I didn't know that people are doing it, I would never have thought about it myself. You know, it's like I never decided not to have a whale. Why not? I don't know. I just never crossed my mind that maybe I'll have a whale. So it also not, I mean, again, other people, they make their own decisions. I think the really big question about having kids is why do we do it?
Yeah.
That some people, they are doing it as a kind of extension of themselves. Like they have, again, this huge pile of things they are carrying, and they want to pass it on to somebody. I have my projects, my hopes, my hatreds, my wars, my religion, my whatever, and it must continue after me. So I have these kids, and I take all this baggage from my head, and I tell them, now you carry that. And I feel good about it. And that's a bad reason to have kids. I think a good reason to have kids is that you are there to help them get rid of their baggage, not to kind of burden them with your baggage. If that's the reason, then that's a wonderful thing.
But do you feel sorry for the kids for today with the future you're describing?
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely very challenging, but it was always challenging. It wasn't easy to be a kid in the Middle Ages.
No.
So it wasn't easy to be a kid. You know, you're born a century ago in the 1920s in Europe. Not very good karma.
But for this moment then, up till now, what's your legacy so far, you think then?
I think the most important legacy is to leave behind good self-correcting mechanisms, whether as an institution, as a country, as an individual, because this is the key. It goes back to what I said about leaving room for error. Whatever we do, whatever we say, there is a lot of error in there. So a very important thing is to leave behind good self-correcting mechanisms. You know, I think about, US history. So today it's very, very common to talk about the founding fathers of the United States as, they were racists, they were misogynists, many of them had slaves, and so forth. And it's all true. But they did one very good thing. They left behind strong self-correcting mechanisms that enabled their own descendants to eventually correct at least some of the mistakes of the founding fathers themselves. And this, I think, is a very good model for everybody, because we don't know what we are doing. If we knew our errors, we would correct them, but we can't. So whatever we leave behind, it should include, as an integral part, a self-correcting mechanism to enable the next generation to go beyond us, to correct our own mistakes.
I think that's very important, of course. The solutions, are there solutions to all the stories you're telling us right now, or they will come?
The solutions, depending for what issues. Part of the thing we need to realize is the enormous power that we have. That if you think about the pandemic, if you think about climate change, about things like that, first of all, we need to realize we have the power to solve them, which is not self-evidence.
Even with the stories you're telling us, with all those people who are not useful anymore and things like that, we can find a solution for that.
Yes, this is not a prophecy that it is inevitable it will happen. It would happen if we make bad decisions. But we have the capacity to make better decisions. The point about talking about the future is not to make predictions and then be very proud if your predictions come true. What's the point? To predict something that you can't change, it's not helping anybody. The main job is, to point a finger at some dangerous scenarios in order to encourage people to prevent them. And when then these scenarios don't happen and people come and say, but all your predictions didn't come true, that's the good case. That you kind of, it's not a prediction, it's a warning, and you're happy when your warning doesn't come true.
Obama said, yes, we can. Mm-hmm. Can you say the same today? Yes, we can?
We still can. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. Whether it's climate change or whether it's regulating artificial intelligence, we have very little time left. It's the next 10, 20, 30 years. We need to tackle these problems and solve them. We can on both fronts.
But we are aware enough of that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But therefore we have you.
Yeah, with climate change, we have growing awareness, but still not enough action. With the dangers of new technologies like AI, we still don't have enough awareness. It's still not a political issue. So that's the job of philosophers, of historians, of public intellectuals to point a finger at it and say this is a very, very huge danger.
Yeah, you're still working on your legacy then.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, Mr. Harari. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.